Good afternoon, everyone. BC Richfield here, live from London. It's just gone a couple of minutes past midday, making it just gone 1100 UTC. A big shout out to everybody joining the stream live today. Knit in for the win. And Craig, great to see you boys in there early. Yep, Craig, you boy, do remind me about that. I will pop you the Femex link. And yeah, a big shout out also to everybody that's going to be watching this on recording. So we're going to smash into our alt request Wednesday. So do let us know what you've got. Hey, Erica, how are you doing? And we're also going to obviously take requests all the way through to the end of the show. So please do load me up early with them. We'll try and get through all of them as best as we can. But I thought I'll start like normal with Bitcoin. And again, just wanted to start here on the weekly, right? And just as a reminder, which I always give myself, which is making sure that we're zooming out. All right. Good morning, Michael. Also, guys, do let me know if the sound and everything is okay. Still just kind of relatively new to this new kind of streaming software that we're using. It's been hopefully a lot better for you guys because the clarity and everything has improved. But as with any kind of changeover, there's typically technical issues, especially when I'm involved. Hans, my man, how the devil are you? Carver, of course we can, mate. It'd be my absolute pleasure. So we're going to start here with Bitcoin right now. Early in my trading career, I was somebody that got very, very focused on either too low a time frame or too much of a singular time frame, right? I wasn't kind of getting that kind of, that helicopter view, that zoomed out view to give me that confidence to enter trades. And with doubt, you end up not entering trades that you should enter, and you end up FOMOing in and chasing trades, that you shouldn't do. Okay. So how does that all kind of transpire? So I've got the most simple of charts up at the moment, weekly chart, Bitcoin. Okay. So I'm always looking for liquidity on the charts, right? How the market moves, in my opinion, it's moving from liquidity pool to liquidity pool. The major players that are doing this are doing so on higher time frames. Okay. So, when we got bearish here on Bitcoin, look, and I'm not talking about saying the market's going to zero, but quite simply, once we've taken, look, we came up and took the previous all-time high, right, which is at 69,000. Now, look, the candles tell you a lot here because prices come up, it's wicked back below. Now, this was a bit of a sneaky one because we came off of a big bullish kind of hammer candle or a pin bar with a short nose. Then we had an engulfing candle. Again, a really, really beautiful trap. If you think about it, convincing people to go long while you can fill a load of very large short orders here and then, make yourself some profit on the way down. This was a big move. So then we start to target the gaps, right? We're saying to ourselves, okay, if we've taken external liquidity here, price is almost certainly drawing down to an inefficiency. That would be a gap like this. All right. And then this here is what tells us the story. And this reaction is what got us bullish again, right? Beautiful bullish hammer candle or a pin bar again with a short nose. And then the rest really has kind of been, as we've been discussing, we need to get ourselves back up to here. But I do want to see us close over 69K. So that's what that red line is. I'm going to take that off the chart now just to kind of add a little bit of clarity. But just for anybody that's maybe new to the stream, we've been getting kind of several thousand people and had loads of really, really nice messages and bits and pieces. But I just wanted to give you guys some context if you're new so that you can see what I'm looking for on the charts. All right. The 73.3 level for Bitcoin is what you're keeping your eye on. Well, if your eyes are on it, Hans, then it is definitely a key level for me. So 73.3, which is round about here. Boop. Yeah, just before that. Look, it's going to be really, really interesting to see what happens when we come into here because there's a lot of speculation in the market. There's a lot of doubt at the moment, which is why I always look to just trade the price action, right? I'm not naive to what's going on in the news and the events, but how often have we seen over the years? I don't know how many bull markets you guys have been involved in, but I've had my fair share all the way back from China FUD. There was the US in the really early days that were just looking to kind of put clampdowns on it. China banning Bitcoin, the big Evergrande blow up that was going to kind of take the world down, etc. Typically, news is a huge tool for manipulating markets, right? So we want to strip away the noise. So anyway, before I blither on too much, and do let us know, guys, by the way, remember, just pop it in the comments if you do have any alts you want me to take a look at. We're going to take a look at Carver for Hans. We'll obviously take a look at Ethereum as well. But we're going to just start here with Bitcoin. Now, for me, this kind of internal high here was certainly of interest and remains so. Would like to see a daily close above this right now. The good thing is here, if we get this daily close and price kind of stays as is, then we're going to get ourselves a nice bullish gap, right? And the great thing about that is that price can then move up, hopefully run this high here, the major high that everybody wants to see broken. And then it seems like a really reasonable point for this to then correct downwards. All right, now it could just completely blow the top off, all right, and just go absolutely nuts. So it's always important to have a plan for both ways. However, we need to remember that obviously we've got the levels over here that we need to be concerning ourselves with as well. So what I'd really like to see here is for price to come up, take this higher, correction back down to here, and then move up and start kind of doing the same with these other highs as we go. Now, if it doesn't do that, it's not a problem. We can kind of frame these things on the lower time frames as well, right? But I just think when you have these kind of big moves, as we've seen back here, for example, right, you know, large move up, price corrects down to a gap, right? Now, this is a good example of sometimes when it doesn't, right? And we leave this lovely gap and then price takes over. But again, what you're saying to yourself is, okay, what has price done? Yeah. What has price done? Has it given us anywhere that we can take a long trade from? And it absolutely has, right? From this order block. So we just want to see, ideally I'm looking for gaps, but if we set an order block, when this candle closes above it, then this is where I'm looking to get long again, all right? So with that in mind, we can take this down just to the 4 hour now. I'm not going to go much lower than that, guys, unless anyone has any particular requests. Let me just turn the session breaks off for a second. Perfect. And let's just make a note of some of these other coins as well. What have we got? 2PGG. Hello, mate. How have you been? Uni ETH. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So this is where we are on Bitcoin, right? And again, we can see here, you know, if you want to look at these points for confluence, right? One other thing I just like to point out here, that this was a really, really key gap to keep an eye on here, right? Because look, when we set that bearish gap, what does our bias remain? We return to the gap, we're still bearish. Where to? The next resting liquidity. And then if we do the same, then we're looking to go deeper. Price comes back into here again, can't close above, so we remain bearish in here. Price comes down to take out liquidity again. And then look at the move that kind of violates this, right? And when I say violate, I mean it closes through, it disrespects it. And that's when we turn these purple and these become inversions. Now, with the inversion, we're then looking for price to close above it, which it does here, and then flip this area in a classic resistance to support. Okay, so that was a really, really good key trigger, allowing us to kind of get in our long positions again. So from here, what would be really, really clean is if price continues up, or doesn't have to, we've taken this high here now. This is a really, really nice clean gap down here. Okay. I think whenever you see these really clear, clean, and obvious, what are you struggling to speak today? Clear, clean, and obvious gaps, then they provide two really, really key things you can do, right? You can take long positions from in here, going higher, because we're remaining with the trend, right? Remember, the trend is our friend until the end. I can't remember, someone taught me that many years ago, but it's so, so true. While you're bullish, remain bullish, right? Don't try and kind of enforce your will on the market or think that, you know, you can predict these things out. If we close below this, then the chances are price is looking for liquidity lower. So we chase it down to these lows. Now, when you start to see lows like this, you start to see a collection of untapped lows or untapped highs. They provide really, really good liquidity pools, right? So this along here, and you have to forgive the crass drawing for a second, creates all the liquidity, price comes down, purges out from the lows down here, and then in the recovery, you can see how it just hunts down these areas, because that's where the stop losses are, right? That's where the liquidity is. So from here, we've got a nice clear gap down here that price can kind of come back down to. Remember, we've got this from our daily as well. But the key thing here is price can come down and wick all the way into this on a daily scale, recover, and still close within this, okay? So that's why it's always important to remember the relevance of time frame as well. Oh, cheeky little request for Amazon. Yeah, sure, mate. Hey, old Gregory, how are you, my friend? Good to see you back. Right, awesome. Let's smash into ETH, shall we? Let's smash into our dear friend ETH. Right, I'll tell you what else I'm going to do as well, because Craig asked for this, and I've had a few other DMs about it as well. Let me get you guys our Femex link. Been trading them with them for a while now, and they've just been absolutely amazing. Great thing about this as well, for anybody that is interested, is that if you use Femex Pulse, I'll pop it in the chat here, guys, right? If you use Femex Pulse, then just for engaging and interacting on things, you get rewarded, right? And that, for me, that's just awesome. If you're sharing posts, if you're engaging with the community, if you're asking questions, then you get rewarded in their native token, okay? And those tokens are worth US dollars, right? So every day you're in there, you're working, you're learning new things, you're getting exclusive access to content just by sharing it and engaging with it. Then you get yourself lots of points and points make prizes, all right? So if anyone's interested, it doesn't cost you anything. You can just go in on the referral link and you'll get access to our Pulse group. Just go in there, ask a few questions, and I'll be in and around there every day anyway. So you can always pop along and say hi. And if you've got any requests for content or any bits and pieces like that, we use it as a really good learning hub. So let's zoom out. And actually, first of all, let's clean this up because we can come back and take a look at this in a moment. Get rid of all of this. Perfect. So again, we want to zoom out and get our high time frame view. Yeah. And you know, this, it almost looks too clean, doesn't it? Because we had that big expansion up to here. Now, I think just by using that link, it should kind of go through okay. But obviously, if there's any issues on that, just pop me a message or get in contact and I'll have a chat with the team. But it should just go straight through on there and set you guys up. It's more about just getting you onto Pulse as well. But I think you're really going to love the platform. They've done a lot of work on it recently, and we've been really heavily involved in that as well in terms of making sure the user experience is really good. It's got brilliant speed, liquidity is great. You're very welcome, mate. So up to here, this is really clean. We need to wait for this weekly candle to close before this becomes a confirmed higher, right? So if price is reaching higher, then this is where it's going to be reaching for. Okay, remembering that this is on a weekly scale, all right, because this is the prior week's high, so that will definitely be a good liquidity pool regardless of the fact that it's a swing higher, but we want to take it one step at a time. Now, this gap's been created, right? Obviously, we had this huge expansion here, which was great. Everybody's talking about how ETH had just been lagging behind, and then all of a sudden it just pops. And how often do we see that in crypto? Again, the move is launched off the basis of this gap. All right, you can see price barely kind of dips into this, holds it, and then we just absolutely rip to the moon. On a weekly scale, a little bit of a cheeky one, really, because you kind of had this nice correction down. Obviously, once you start engaging with these bullish gaps, you don't want to be looking for shorts anyway. You want to see price either close below it, and then that's the indication that, okay, this should have been held as support. Then you assume that it's resistance. You look for those little pullbacks, and then you're just targeting the next liquidity pools lower. What was sneaky about this was to confirm this order block, you had to wait for this candle to close above it, right? And you would have missed, obviously, the entire move up. However, we do have this really nice gap now. And for me, I'm still super bullish on this. I think this thing looks really like it's ready to pop. We've had all that kind of FUD come out. You've had all the news now. And price just kind of holding up really well. Also, when we look at our equity markets here, we can see how lovely and green these are. And even on a day where we've got the dollar index pumping, equity markets are hot as well. And crypto is going up. So this will be major long positions taken if we get this pullback into here. But still, while we're up here on the lower time frames, we're now going to drop down to the daily. You know, price is just in this really nice consolidation, right? So this looks like, for anybody that trades patterns, all right, obviously just do it very roughly. I'm not a pattern trader, all right, but I know some exceptional ones. You know, we've got this kind of flag materializing here, haven't we? So while we've got that, we're looking for that breakout. Now, these consolidations, you want to look at these as kind of a ticking time bomb, for want of a better word. You're looking at this for compression, right? Price is getting in here, and it's like a coiled spring. You're kind of bringing that tension into it, and then when it pops, you can see some really big moves. What I like about this is price has really kind of tried to drop out of this a couple of times, right? And just seems to be getting bought up. But we do have kind of long tail wicks, right? So these to the up and the downside, right? So again, classic compression. The market will almost certainly kind of dive the wrong way, first of all, grab some liquidity and then rip, or it might do so to the upside, leaving a failure swing here before a deeper correction down into here, right? And then someone once told me this as well, an Aussie trader, and for the life of me, I can't remember his bloody name, but he used to say, just think about where the maximum, he would swear a lot in it as well, which I won't do because of the time of day, but he would say, just think where everybody is screwed, yeah, where the maximum amount of pain can be enforced on the market. And chances are that's where price is going to go. All right. And what that means is everybody getting super bullish here. We have this little pop to the upside, induces loads of long positions. People start to FOMO in thinking we're going to the moon. Yeah. And then it kind of drops. Yeah. And then that way you catch everyone offside. And that's not even the max pain. The max pain is when you get down to here and everybody's then taking short positions and price then starts to rip to the moon. 1 second, please, guys. Right, perfect. And another great point here from Hans as well, talking of ticking time bombs, non-farm employment news coming out soon, right? For anybody that doesn't kind of follow that stuff, I will cover it at the end if you remind me. Just go on something like Baby Pix, or I use Forex Factory, and it's red folder news that you're interested in. They're major news events, especially the ones that affect the US market, okay? They will impact equity markets hugely and entire markets, right? And in turn, that flow of liquidity and capital moving around then has a knockdown effect on risk assets, especially like Bitcoin, okay, and cryptocurrency. So this is where we are. On a daily scale, you know, there's not really a ton to do here. I was looking, I think actually, if we put this back on, let's have a look. Oh, okay, so this was a bit lower time frame for this lot, so we'll look at that on the H4. But I think what we were discussing here was looking at this in terms of like a change in state of delivery, right? So we've got these down close candles here. Now, if we draw this as our kind of line in the sand, right, we want to see a close above this. A close above this would give me an indication that price is seeking liquidity higher up, all right? And in the same vein, a close below this would also do the same, right? And then we've got, you know, daily lows here, here, obviously, and here. And then we can kind of see how it starts to like play into our thinking in terms of like what we're looking for, right? Because if we look at that big weekly gap, which obviously I've somehow managed to delete, then, you know, if we do have that change in state of delivery, it then plays in with our high time frame theory that, okay, price is looking to, you know, get a bit lower, induce people into those shorts. We also have this, you know, this intermediate term low, which is just a low inside, or the best way to think about it is a low inside a fair value gap or a high inside a fair value gap. They make really, really good liquidity pools, right? So all of a sudden, if we get that change in state of delivery to the down, I think that we could be targeting this, sweep some liquidity, induce those shorts, and then really start to rip, okay? So that's what I'm thinking at the moment. But now if we kind of move to our 4 hour, right? And you can see how if we kind of just draw these back here, almost looking at this as a range, right? It's pretty much perfect. Yeah, we've not had a slither of a close above it up here, right? But price is just kind of compressing into this range. Now we've taken range highs here. Yeah, so you would normally, when you're drawing out a range, you go from low to high. You're just trading the range until it breaks. And price spends, you know, the majority, I think 65 to 70% of its time ranging, right? You know, a lot of people think that price is typically, you know, expansions and contractions, but actually a lot of the time it's just in a range. So you hold the range until you break out of it. You want that confirmation, and you want to see that resistance to support flip, and then you can start targeting higher prices. Again, what I like about this, looking at it here though, is that we can see, I think we took that high, didn't we? But you can see these liquidity pools that are above us here, right? Now, on the downside, yes, we do have some, right? This, but not as many. Price could just have a quick move down here and then really start to rip to take these out. So that's certainly something I'm going to be conscious of. But on a 4 hour scale, really, you know, you can only trade what's in front of you in the charts. We've taken range high until we close above this. That'll give me conviction we're going higher. Until we do, I think we're seeing this corrective move down a little bit lower. So let's pop back to our weekly again, and then let's take a look at Carver. Okay, nice. Well, the first thing, and what I always try and do when I look at a chart, is just label up the clear and obvious points, gaps, highs, lows, areas that liquidity is going to be resting or that price is going to want to go. Now, next thing I ask myself is what is the last thing that price has done, right? So price came in, took out this low, right? So in taking that low, our expectation is we've taken external liquidity that price is going to draw to internal liquidity, which is our gaps. Price has come in, interacted with this, and has now sold off again. So the expectation now would be for price to seek external liquidity, right? Which would be in the form of this low. However, what we can see here is this kind of price consolidation. I think as we've kind of seen, Bitcoin and obviously ETH has kind of had that big rip now and it's consolidating as well. It's almost like the market's kind of waiting for that trigger to just go nuts, right? Now, look, I'm not one of these up-only people, right? I'd love to see crypto do well, but I really don't have great care in lots of projects. A few I'm really interested in, especially real world, ones that have real world effect, things that do good things for the planet and stuff like that, or for people. But that ticker could be anything, could be Amazon, whatever, right? You need to kind of separate yourself from that sometimes when you're looking at price action. Otherwise, if you are someone that wants that or you've got some kind of attachment to what you're trading, it can really, really skew your line of thinking. So what this is telling me is we're kind of, having this consolidation here, and I would have expected price to have a more aggressive move down, right? Because of this reaction at this gap, yeah? Big move down, create the gap, this comes up, bearish hammer candle, or again, pin bar with a short nose. But then it really failed to kind of get that momentum further to the downside. So at the moment, while we hold, I definitely want to take a little bit of a more kind of granular look, all right? And again, here on the daily, you can see that kind of compression, all right? But actually, as it looks here, you come down, so we've got the lower high, higher low, but a lower high again, and a higher low again, right? So this is telling you that price isn't really in a kind of structure. Yeah, you'd want to be seeing your typical kind of, if you're bearish, you want to see this. Okay, obviously it doesn't look this clean. Then you take something out, you take that high, you then look to this area here, the high that's taken the low, to be the point of reversal, right? We don't have anything like that here. Price has kind of come down, taken liquidity on the low side, taking it on the high side, taking it on the low side, taking it on the high side. So actually, I'm really, really interested in seeing how price is engaging and respecting with the gaps here, okay? Because if we look at this gap here, respected, price came up, where it's above the highs. In contrast to that, when we set this gap here and price was violated and closed below, the expectation is then that price is seeking liquidity lower. However, we had already taken it in the same move here, and then we saw price come back up, close above this again, which then for me, once it's been there, then it's invalidated. Goes, yeah, of course you can, mate. We'll certainly take a look at DOT. It's DOT, isn't it? I think the ticker. Remind me if I'm wrong. Loretto Jr., how are you doing, my friend? Great to have you on. So what's happened now? By the same premise, we then had a lot of balanced price action in here, but this gives me a lot of encouragement for some more upside here on Carver, right? Because we've now inverted this fair value gap. So again, when we broke down here, you expect this to act as resistance, which it did initially. See the long tail wick. And again, look, this is something I'm going to pop an arrow on this because this is a really good example of what I was discussing earlier on how, you can move to a lower time frame and think that price is really going to kind of rip from here. But actually what happens is price just kind of wicks above and then ends up closing below, right? And this is just a great way to get people bullish and then just to take all their liquidity, reset. Everyone sits there and they're just like, oh man, I was so certain price was going to go up then they close below, then they get bearish, then you get a liquidity sweep like this and price just rips. And how often do you hear that, or how often have you been through it, right? I certainly know I had my fair share of them in my early trading days as well, where I just seem to just constantly find the wrong side of the market with such an alarming success rate, just for me to either get my stop taken out or for me to do something amateurish, like kind of remove my position. And then the market just kind of takes off without you. And then those moves after those kind of manipulations tend to be very, very strong, right? So now we're here. My eyes are on two areas, which is this high here at 0.6968, and also then this high. Well, actually this high here, because you've basically got equal highs there. And that's a really, really strong draw on liquidity. All right. So that I'm really super interested in that. We can actually see it starting to stack here as well, right? Because you've got this high above here. So there's a lot of liquidity higher. So at the moment, I'm definitely bullish on this. Would like to see a daily close in this kind of region as well, meaning that we get ourselves a bullish gap here. All right. So then if price does tag any of these highs, we've got a great place for price to retreat to and then for us to reload and go higher. Yeah, Matic, of course, mate. Perfect. I will start ripping through these a bit quicker, guys, as well. I just wanted to kind of give these a little bit of extra context because a lot of these charts haven't been that clean or clear to trade. So Remember the arrow that we put on here, because this was the daily wick that came up to here, yeah, and then what did it do? Sold off, right? So if you were allowing for a daily level like this and you're like, oh, we've come above that daily level on the 4 hour, let's go. Well, that's the problem when you lose that kind of side of the context, right? Is the price has kind of come up to here, tricked a lot of people into going long, and then it's ultimately just ripped back down again. Another point of interest here, again with those equal highs, right? So see how you get this kind of engineered liquidity starting to stack up. You get this big move to the downside and then price just absolutely pops. So definitely bullish on Carver at the moment. This chart looks really, really nice. Would be more than happy to see a correction down to this kind of area where we've got this gap and then for price to start ripping again. All right, but let's just keep in mind the high time frame. All right, guys, for context. So what was the next one we were asked for? So uni, let's have a look. Going to start really ripping through these ones now, guys. So do stop me if you've got any questions or bits and pieces, or if I'm going a little bit too fast. What have we got this on? Let's look for a good futures coin. Let's go to our... What will it be on? Yeah, let's take a look at this. Wow. Okay, so I can see why people wanted this one brought up. Now, on a weekly scale, remember, this is where we want to start with. Okay, we've set this beautiful gap below us, right? That price just tickled into here. Can you see that? And that's a really, really nice, strong reaction. Okay, so definitely bullish on this on the higher time frames. We've had a massive weekly inversion here. Again, look, that tiny little reaction and then price rips through. So that, as far as I'm concerned, is super bullish. Now, price has obviously just taken this weekly high here. So it's natural that we can see some kind of a pullback here. But yeah, I think we're going to get a lot more context on the lower time frame. And actually, what we can see here is this is the level that's kind of capping the market at the moment, 11.8083. On a daily scale, would be good to see price kind of probably just consolidate in and around here today. And then we confirm this gap, which we would pull back into. And again, I know I will sound like a broken record here, but we get another lovely inversion here, right? And that big strong move higher. So again, definitely bullish on this. We've obviously had that big rip now. On a 4 hour scale, this is probably our best and cleanest time frame because we've got two really obvious big gaps here, all right, which is this one. So while we draw down into this, bearing in mind we got this one below us as well, we can take out our Fibonacci and go, okay, so let's go from the low to the high of this move. Look for our 50%, which is here. So when price rips down into this, I want to be looking on the lower time frames for some long setups down there. All right. So definitely bullish on uni as well. I think it's really nice to get this corrective move down. Again, if we start closing below this, I'm not going to get super bearish because again, I'm just going to be zooming out, all right, to my daily and saying, okay, well, look, closing below that on a 4 hour, we've still got this huge bullish gap, all right, as long as we confirm that by tomorrow. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, that's really nice and bullish on there. So ETH, let's have a look. Oh. Take a look at our old friend Ethereum, shall we? Right. Oh, no, I already covered these, didn't I? What am I talking about? It's because I've written it down here on my list. So what was the other one? Amazon, right? AMZN. Take a look at our friend over here on the NASDAQ. Right. A lot of gapping. We've got pre-market of 180. Oh, you're very welcome, Erica. I didn't realize that was... I've forgotten that was your request. Awesome. Yeah, it looks really strong, though, doesn't it? It looks really good. Okay, so these, by the way, for anybody interested, these are your earnings, right? These days can have huge effects on the market. If you go back and look at, earnings, rip, earnings, rip, earnings, rip. Again, just into liquidity targets, though, as well. Yes, Gregory, I have got you down, mate. You're up. In fact, Dot is up next for us, and then we're going to take a look at Matic as well. So what are we going on with here? Well, I mean, look, the thing with Amazon is we've come off the back of this just unbelievable tear. And normally when you're looking at these kind of expansions, right, you're looking like with this one here for price to kind of come back down, get into the 50% level, all right, then you're looking for your bullish gaps in this case. Again, once it's respected, you're respecting structure, you're just going long here. If it closes below, there's an assumption that you're going shorter. However, if we look at this move here from the low to the high, right, and you know, when you're drawing these, they can be a little bit subjective. I appreciate that. You're just looking for the kind of, I always just try and find the most obvious ones. If I've got to ask myself, is that really a high or low? Or is that, you know, as you look at this whole move up, if you're saying, where's the top to the bottom? Then for me, it seems like this. It would have seemed like that at the time as well. But then when we extend to here, you're looking for those kind of decent corrective moves lower. And we didn't quite get down to the 50% here, but we got a lot of gaps, obviously, to interact with. So where we are at the moment, what have we got? So we got this kind of volume imbalance sat in here, which is very minor, but I'd like to see us kind of get above that. We obviously had this gap here as well, which prices closed below. So at the moment, I'd be thinking on a weekly scale that this is, you know, technically we're looking at this, it's still in bullish structure, but from a liquidity perspective, we close above this, then I think it's game on again. But as long as we hold below this, I think that this is the most obvious low, because we have, you know, this volume imbalance here as well, that if we're treating this like one of our gaps, we can see prices now close below. So this kind of area should now be acting as resistance. Let's move to a daily and see if we've got a little bit more context here. All right, it can be tricky sometimes with these assets because you do get a lot of gapping, right? Because obviously you're talking about weekends and that these are traditional market assets. So, you know, price, unlike crypto, which runs 24/7, obviously has these breaks, and some of that leads to these gapping when the market opens up. So again, looking at it here, we've kind of got this imbalance here. This is kind of playing into what we're thinking. Price can kind of get back above this level. Then I think, look, you know, looking at these and saying, okay, where's these, you know, untapped highs that are providing liquidity? What's drawing price higher? Well, for me, it's those. So again, actually, I think that's quite simple for me. I think, again, I'd be looking for price to kind of get above this level and hold. Maybe we've got something a little bit more granular on the 4 hour, which we do. All right, so first things first is that we've had this FVG close above, right? We confirm this as quite a small bodied order block, but an order block nonetheless. Price is holding that now, and we're looking to progress higher. So we do need to remember, though, that we do have that. However, being a volume imbalance, I wouldn't consider it necessarily as strong a resistance as I would an FVG, right? But we just want to be aware that that is still there. So I think at the moment, probably a little bit cautious here on Amazon. I think it could move lower, but as soon as we establish ourselves back above here, I can really see it coming to take out these highs. Let's take a look at DOT for our friend O'Gregory. Good old DOT. I remember years and years ago, Polkadot, and this was just some crazy asset to trade. Okay, so again, taking this, it looks a little bit kind of like the Carver chart in some respects, doesn't it? But look, we've taken this low here, and again, a low within a gap, right? So as I say, and I know I kind of probably do sound like a broken record, we've got an intermediate term low here. It's within a fair value gap. These are just beautiful areas that you can kind of hold these. Look, respects it to the dot, right? No close below it. And now we're feeling bullish. However, we need to respect the fact that we're coming into a bearish gap here, all right, on the weekly, and we've seen price have this initial reaction. So we would be saying to ourselves, okay, well, price has come up, right? It's now taken internal liquidity. Where's the next external liquidity, which is resting here? Okay, that's at 6.429. Now, price doesn't have to come down and take this, right? But again, if it doesn't, it's a real sign of strength if it starts to move back through this. And again, it's a very small gap here, but actually, you know, we can see that price really kind of wants to gravitate towards this. So let's see what the daily tells us. Nice. So with this gap as well, right, we can easily come into 50% of this. Again, when you zoom out, you know, price can come all the way up here on this daily time frame and still come back down and close below on a weekly scale, right? So it's always worth remembering that. But we do have this sitting here, all right, which is the swing high, again, within a gap. So it makes it one of our intermediate term highs. Really great liquidity pool. And then I'm just saying, okay, well, what's going to give me the kind of conviction here, or what's capping the market at the moment is this. Just going to do that in red so it stands out from the other one, right? So again, price has done what? Taken external liquidity down here in the form of this low. Then price has recovered. Now it's an internal liquidity. We did invert this, but again, this was quite low in the move, but that is definitely a good sign for the bulls here. But if we get a daily close above this now, then I think we're ripping for this, which is at 7.780. On the 4 hour, looking for the context again, look at this really lovely move. Took this kind of internal low here and then inverted this gap here and just absolutely ripped. Now, we do have this gap below us here. You know, the market loves to come and fill these gaps. And we'll do this one just in green. I know we've kind of got a lot of boxes on the chart. So while we're seeing a rejection here, I think price is kind of drawing down towards this gap. And the ideal scenario here would obviously be price coming down. Obviously, definitely not a text box. But the ideal scenario here is price coming down to rebalance this gap. All right. And then using that momentum and using those orders to really kind of start ripping for the highs. All right. So that's where I am on DOT for sure. You're very welcome, O Gregory. Talaga. That's not me, but that is a freaking cool name. I like that. And then we've got Matic as well, I think, haven't we, as well, that we just want to take a look at before we shut up shop. So let's take a look here. Let me zoom out and give ourselves some context here. Okay. Again, a lot of these charts are going to look a little bit similar, right? What did we do? Reacted from this gap. Yeah. See this bullish gap here. Price rips into this. Suleiman K. Hello, mate. WLD. We can squeeze that in for you, mate. What exactly is that? Is that a crypto, is it? Or is that a traditional ticker, Michael? No problem, mate. It's all on recording for you as well, bud. And as always, you can reach out if you've got any questions. So weekly gap, right? We've responded really well. Reacted is technically correct, but definitely not what I meant to say. We've reacted well here. Price got bought up. Now look at these nice long downside wicks here, right? Showing the absorption as price comes into this. Now, normally when price kind of engages with a gap like this and you see that immediate pullback, you're taking that as a sign that, you know, price is seeking liquidity lower. Right now, I do use the term the buyers have stepped in or the sellers have stepped in. Not exactly necessarily true, but I think it is a really good way to kind of frame it and make people understand it. You know, as price steps into here, if the sell pressure is so great, it should be seeking liquidity below this low. You then start to see the long down wicks here, and you get a bullish hammer or a pin bar with a short nose like this. And price comes back into this again, and fine. Look, we do get the change in state of delivery here, right? So price comes underneath, closes below this, right? So this close below then tells me what? Well, it just tells you that price is seeking liquidity below that low on the next day, right? And you can see what happens. It comes and takes out that low and then closes back within the range of this body, meaning we're expecting price to move higher. Now, again, price is kind of just in the consolidation phase here on the weekly. So we want to move down to our daily and say, okay, have we got any more context? And actually, the first thing that jumps out here that we're obviously looking at are these equal highs. All right, love equal highs, equal lows, such good liquidity pools, right? So I think we can look at that. Just above it, we have an intermediate term high here as well. So a little bit similar to a few of the other alt charts, right? We've come in and we've kind of taken liquidity. See how we've just swept this low here, and that's induced. And now the slight difference with this one than what we've looked at is that we've already got this inversion here on Matic, right? Which is really interesting. So this is showing a bit more bullishness here. So actually, as long as we hold this level, then I'm expecting price to start coming up for here. We've got this high resting here, but ultimately these equal highs up there are going to be a big draw on liquidity. Now, a caveat, as always with crypto markets, is that if Bitcoin just decides to absolutely destroy itself, then, you know, it's probably going to pull everything else down with it. But that caveat aside, this is looking really healthy. So let's look at how we can get involved. So we want to kind of see this hold. Again, really don't mind this as a move here, right? Again, I'm just going to do this one in green so it stands out. But this bullish gap that sat here, we've had this nice expansion, right? So just for example, look, when we had this expansion from this low to this high, yeah, what does price do? Comes down to the 50%, right? And then finds out. Now, don't get me wrong, you're sitting there thinking, yeah, but there's nothing for price to interact with there, but there absolutely is, this order block, right? So this order block, price closes above it, confirms these two adjoining candles, for me, the way I look at the market, as an order block, right? And then when it closes above, look how well this is respected. Price tickles that 50% and then rips higher. Why is that relevant, BC? And why are you jabbering on about that? Because I think that this here, so the move from here to here, right, lines this up perfectly just below this 50%, right? So I think that we could see price come down into here. I'd be looking for long setups in here and trading this higher, because I think actually of all the charts we're looking at, Matic here is definitely one of the most bullish. Perfect. All right, well, let's close up on WLD for our friend Michael, shall we? There we go. Let's see what we've got. Let's take a look on the Binance contract, shall we? Our friends over at Binance. Wow. That launch and just got kicked straight back down, didn't it? But then actually built a really nice, healthy structure here. Again, broken record time, but just to emphasize it, look what happens when we invert this FVG. Price closes below it. Where's it going to seek liquidity next? Yeah, below the next low. And we actually here, I think these represent 3 pretty much perfect equal lows. I mean, it's unlike they will be, but look at that. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong, not swing lows on a weekly scale. Yeah, because you need to, swing low needs to be flanked by a higher low either side of it, right? Like this one. Yeah. But look at that. That just engineered liquidity at its absolute finest. Price comes down, sweeps that, and then just absolutely leaves everyone behind, doesn't it? But again, if we take the low to the high of this move, and we're looking at our 50%, right? And we're saying to ourselves, we want to see price kind of engage with, a bullish gap or an order block down here. Well, actually, it's kind of done this quite nicely, hasn't it? Now, don't get me wrong, and you've also got these, this order block here, for example, top of this candle, you see price wicked into this and it's getting bought up. Now, something that's obviously restricting price or kind of capping it is this. I'm just going to do that in red so it stands out, otherwise the next screen is just going to be completely grey. So price has had this reaction in here, expectation, look, taken the low here, price has come up. So what have we done? Taken external liquidity here in the form of this low, an intermediate term low again, caused price to kind of draw up into this, find this bearish gap, yeah, and now it's kind of moving down again. So we're saying to ourselves, realistically, you want to see these things come and take liquidity, yeah, so that would be our next liquidity to the downside. But again, it's, it's holding this quite well. There comes a rebalance, had that big drop off in the last few days, have been slightly more bearish than bullish because of the long upside wicks here, yeah, showing that there's absorption to the downside. But let's take a look on a daily scan and see if we can get some more context out of it, all right? And again, we can see this above here. This is the gap that's kind of capping the market at the moment. Again, interacted it with there. What happened? We shot off and took liquidity below the lows. Now, we've done that again here, right? We've kind of drawn into this, but for me, this has kind of been balanced up until this point here. So we've not really taken much in the form of key liquidity here. Price is kind of holding this area and compressing, but actually, setting these higher lows here, a little bit of a sign, I suppose, fairly similar to like what we were seeing on ETH if we were looking at this as like from a pattern point of view, right? You've kind of from here to here, you've got that. That's probably, if I was looking at it like that, I would say, price deviation here, climb back in, and this is that kind of level. We can see that kind of drawing down here that's kind of capping the market. Obviously, I'm not drawing that as a perfect line. If you were looking at it like that as a resistance line, you'd have to draw it like this, right? Or something like that. But it is definitely a form of compression going on in here. So I'd actually probably go, we're looking at wild on the weekly from December. Oh, okay, man, let's take a little look. So from, where are we? So from back here, was it, mate? Sorry, and looking at this rip. I mean, for me at the moment, it's kind of holding this, right? So I think on a weekly scale, I think it would probably be a little bit more dangerous to short down here than it would be to long. But I do think that on a daily scale, we can take that bias in, but we need to find some kind of setup. And really, for any kind of assurance, we'd want to see price either close above this to confirm that as an order block, right? We've got no gaps in here to go for. Really, price didn't really take any form of liquidity here, so we still have the liquidity resting below that low. So yeah, I think actually I would just be drawing this down onto a 4 hour and saying I just want to make sure that I'm looking for something really clean. All right. So again, we can see a nice little fair value gap inversion that we had here. So this is the kind of area that I'm now looking to hold, right? So we've come up and we've taken this high. So we've taken external liquidity. That's what's capping the market there. And we have an order block here as prices kind of closed above. So again, I think for me, nice pullback here into this area would be absolutely fine. If we start closing above this high, the area that's kind of capping it at the moment, you can see we have these other, no, we tap that high. So we would be then targeting this one here and ultimately this one up here. Suleiman K. Yeah, of course, mate. Let's just flick in one more and then we're going to call it a day so these streams aren't too long for you guys. Would you be able to look into Atom? Because, okay, Atom and ETH looked like bottoming. Interesting. Let's definitely take a look at Atom. I remember trading this a lot, actually. Price action on Atom was, and still is to some respect, just incredibly, incredibly clean. You can see we've got some old TA on here looking for this gap to hold and push up. It didn't. What happened? Closed below. So it seeks liquidity lower down. Let's just see if we've got that up here. Okay, so yeah, if we look at this up here, we can see what we've been discussing previously here on Atom. Hopefully that's not too messy for you guys to see. But look, we had this nice bullish gap here. Price came down, had that beautiful reaction. Price got bought up, respecting it fully. We were saying if it closed below, then that was the next target. Never even kind of got that low for us. You're very welcome, mate. So then what have we done? We've come down here, taken external liquidity. Price has drawn back into this gap. Now it's forcing price lower again. We've marked out these equal lows here as well. But obviously, I think we probably had a little bit more on the daily. Yeah, we did. So again, look, fair value gap here. We inverted this. What did we say? If we close below this, our expectation is for price to seek liquidity lower. We've got this low here. And ultimately, then we were looking to see if these equal lows would get tagged. Now, once again, we can see here that price has just kind of gone into this consolidation, right? You're very welcome, Michael. I hope it was useful, mate. So that is holding price back. That's holding price up. So I think we're kind of looking at this kind of just ping-ponging around within this range at the moment. I don't know if I actually saved this as anything. I don't think that I did. So I tell you what, let's do this. So let's get it so it's really nice and clean, and then we can kind of make sure that we're not, or making sure, sorry, that we've got the right context here. So bearish gap above us, we'll do that one in red again so it stands out. Close above this, then I'm targeting these highs. Again, I really like how this is shaping up because we've got all these highs starting to materialize here. That's going to be a brilliant kind of magnet for price. But, you know, again, let's never force our will on the market. It just doesn't work like that, and it certainly doesn't listen. You've got a lot of these to the downside as well, right? So I think it is one of those things at the moment where if you look at it like that, you can see this is overall just kind of a big compression. There's higher highs, but there's also higher lows, and there's lower highs and lower lows. So price here just looks like it needs to really make a definitive move like we're seeing on a lot of crypto at the moment, right? But I do think we close above this, and I think we can really rip and start to take out some of those higher targets. While price gets held below it, however, I would be favoring a move down, say on the 4 hour to this, bullish gap lower down, because again, look, broken record time, I know, but on this previous expansion, hopefully you guys can see these dotted lines, right, down into our 50%, into this slither of a gap here, but also into this order block, and then price took off, right? So now we're saying to ourselves, okay, are we going to get something similar here? And we have this lovely gap here, almost at the equilibrium. So really a move down into this to kind of catch people offside and then to catch a bid within there would be something that I would definitely look at as well. All right, guys. So look, we're going to call it a day there. Anybody that's on with us now as well, coming over to join us at TBN for the Trade Club. We're going to be doing some live trading this afternoon on the NASDAQ. And actually, we will start moving across on some crypto assets on that as well, because I did promise that we would do that we would start factoring that in as well. So I look forward to seeing all you legends in about 25 minutes over there. And as for the rest of you absolute beauties, thank you so much for joining in today. We've had almost 2,000 people live with us almost all the way through, which has been a real pleasure. Lovely to see new faces on here, and obviously all of you old school legends who have been with us, and especially with me since the very beginning. I can't express my gratitude enough for your support. Always asking good questions on here, and let's keep the streams going, keep the education at the focus. And if you guys do ever have any questions that you want to reach out with, you can find me over at the Bird Nest. And please do take a look down in the description as well, right? You can go in and you can find all the goodies and bits and pieces and ways that you can sign up, all from free all the way through. And I really, really can't stress enough, please do come over and check out Femex Pulse with us. They've been so amazing in terms of how they've been listening to all their customers, everything that they've done with the platform, the way that they're just constantly trying to help and reward people. For me, they're really at the forefront of where crypto exchanges are going to go. So come and take advantage of it, because as always, there's an early mover advantage, right? You can find the link. I did share it there. It's also should be in the description of this as well. All right, guys. But wishing you all a fantastic close of week and week ahead. Please do remember us. Sorry, there is one thing I want to share with you guys, which is this. Okay, so 5th today, look at the red folder news that we've got. So on here you can see, right, in literally 20 minutes, non-farm employment change here. This thing can definitely have a huge impact on the market. And then later on today as well, we've got ISM Services PMI, which is speaking to a really good friend of mine who you can find on Twitter, called The Trading Tank. And he's just a monster with the, understanding these news. He's saying he's not necessarily expecting that to have like a huge effect, but we have got others coming up as well. And just look at the rest of the week, right? We're focused here on the US ones. We've got unemployment claims on Thursday as well. That can have an effect on the market. And then again, non-farm employment change on Friday. Okay, so you can find this. It's all completely free. Yeah, it is. I can't argue with that, Hans. That's just a perfect way to close off the stream. Here's a link, guys. No association, no affiliation. It's just a really good free site. You can keep an eye on these. And sometimes you'll look at trades you've had in the past and been like, God, that was going really well. Why did that really turn? Well, it's typically because of some red folder news that's dropped in the States that's had a really big impact on equity markets. And that's kind of then had a pseudo effect on crypto. All right, guys, have a fantastic week ahead.